SmackDown review, and in today's video, it's the obvious. It's the SmackDown review. SmackDown just wrapped up. We saw a pretty awesome show, if I would do say so myself. So, without further ado, first of all, before we do get started, I do want to mention where you can follow me, where you can keep in touch with me on all my accounts. Firstly, here on YouTube, CZV underscore or CZV Wrestling. Over here on Twitch, where I'm actually streaming this live, it's CZV underscore wrestling underscore 2309. I might change that soon. I don't like the way that sounds, but it is what it is. And then if you want to follow me over on Instagram, it is CZV underscore wrestling. But now that that's out the way, let's get into SmackDown tonight. We obviously know this was in Dublin, and we know this started at 3 o'clock, but on where I'm at least, it aired at 8. So I was watching it at 8, and here's what we got out of it. So Becky Lynch opened the show, made a surprise entrance, and got a huge ovation from her country. And Becky had a royal blue fur coat on, which, by the way, this promo right here was great. Becky talked about how whenever she was little in Dublin, whenever Randy Orton noticed her, she talked about that moment right there. She talked about how all this time she's been waiting for a WWE televised show to come to Dublin, and now it's finally here. She can't wait, and then all of a sudden she just fully switches up on the crowd. I think that was a great way to switch up on the crowd. I absolutely loved it. So I think it's good that we're finally keeping Hill Becky. I like how they let her soak in it for a little bit. The fans started chanting for her for just a little bit, and then she switched up on the crowd. So I think that, yes, I loved how they let her soak into this. I love how they let her enjoy her native country, but I do believe that it's best to keep her heel and keep her to what she's meant to do. So I'm glad that she did this. And then she talked about the Randy Orton stuff, and she said that she was actually kind of excited for them to come back to Dublin, but backstage she petitioned for them to not do this show. Then we heard the "We Want Lyra" chants. Becky shut him down and said that Lyra's never getting another shot, which we already know from Monday Night Raw. But then all of a sudden, we hear "We Want Punk" chants, and which Becky responds to that by saying no one wants him, or that old you-know-what. And Becky said that instead, she had to come home, and she had all of this stuff to do in Dublin. But then, before you know it, we heard "It's Tiffy time," and Tiffy time chants broke out, where Tiffany Stratton would come out and she would tell Becky Lynch to go back to her brand. We know Becky is not normally on SmackDown, but she came here as a surprise entrance in Dublin because of it's her native country. So she came out and she said that now, Rebecca, you can leave. So we kind of heard it getting personal. I feel like that's a weekly occurrence with Tiffany Stratton at this point. But either way, we saw her to tell Becky Lynch to get out of the ring, but then we see Nia Jax come out. And as soon as we see her come out, we see her hit Tiffany Stratton with a right hand, in which then we would see Jade Cargill come out to the ring. They would get their whole brawl in. Becky would try to set up Jade, but then we would get announced. Nick Aldis would come out there and announce that this tag match would be in the main event. It would be Becky Lynch and Nia Jax versus Jade Cargill and Tiffany Stratton. And I mean, honestly, I like that we made this match official. I love this type of match, but I feel like that the storylines aren't matching up to me personally. I can't see a world where we're seeing these storylines all match up together. I obviously think Becky has nothing to do with it. I feel like these matches in Dublin are going to have nothing to do with any storylines. We just need to roll with it. So I think that, yes, it's going to be good. It's going to be kind of fun. But I think that, no, it's not going to be great, just because we're just going to have to keep going with the same narrative of normal storylines not being used. So I'm excited for what the storylines are holding, but I don't know. Okay, we have Italian Pigeon in the chat. We have Russ in the chat. Weekly occurrence 0-3 moment. Yeah, Tiffany Stratton's definitely getting there now. But we would see that happen and that tag match be announced. Next up, something that I'm actually really excited to say. Carmelo Hayes talked backstage with Fraxium. We know that Melo and Miz defeated Fraxium last week after some miscommunications. So then Fraxium told Carmelo Hayes to quit listening to Miz. So now this is the first tag team that has told Carmelo to not listen to Miz anymore. So now from the outside looking in, it's kind of going to get the gears going for Melo. But we have not seen any look on Melo's face that would look like that he might turn on Miz. We haven't really saw that yet. So if we can see that eventually, that would be great. But then Miz would come up and he would talk about his many career accomplishments, and then we would get announced that it would be Motor City Machine Guns versus Miz and Melo next up, in which that match would go pretty well. I loved how that match turned out. I think the match overall was great. But I think that whenever you have Melo and Miz together, it's going to be a good match. But now we're kind of playing more into the storyline part. But either way, man, I feel like Melo was not used right. And yet he still don't miss. Yes, Melo does not miss. Many know that I'm a huge Carmelo Hayes fan, and I'm excited to see what they do with Melo and Miz. But the We Won't Miz chance actually came through during this match. I wasn't expecting it. For the stuff that we're doing with Miz and Melo, I think it's best for us to get Melo chance, not Miz. So I don't like how that happened. I don't like how the fans did that. But then eventually the We Won't Miz chance came out, and in the end we ended up seeing Miz and Melo have another miscommunication 2 weeks in a row, which would lead to Melo and Miz winning, but at what cost, as the miscommunications ended up helping them win the match, but Miz steals the pin again as soon as Melo was about to set up his finisher, and this ended in 8 minutes. So this is still in the first hour. The Miz and Melo situation still happens. We're still building on this. Italian Pigeon says in the chat, I will gladly challenge you for the title of the biggest Carmelo Hayes fan. Hey, I don't know, man. I'm a pretty big fan. But Miz stole the cover, and I think that the storyline's gonna live on. The storyline's gonna continue going until eventually we get somewhere where we'll be able to see Miz and Melo eventually turn on each other. But I don't know how we're gonna get more heat on this feud. I think right now it's probably gonna be the hottest we're gonna be able to get it. I don't think that the fans are gonna be able to pay a lot of attention to it. I think if we're gonna do it anywhere, we have to do it in Dublin because in the US they don't get any reaction. So I think that now's the best time to do it. Now would be the best time to do it. So I don't know when we're gonna pull the trigger on this, but it's whatever. Kathy Kelly would interview Jimmy Uso backstage, where we would see Sami Zayn congratulate Jimmy on the pregnancy, his birthday being today. So I think that that's great. Obviously, knowing that they're kind of on the same page now, both going after the Usos. But we saw no Jacob Fatu during this backstage segment, which definitely raised my eyebrow a little bit. But Sami said that the baby will always have a good uncle in Sami Uso. But then Solo would come up and the MFTs interrupted. Solo said that when the newborn baby arrives, it will have plenty of uncles and his family, pointing at the MFTs. Solo said that Jacob could name the baby after him, and Jimmy gave the no yeet sign, and Sami told Solo that he is no longer dealing with the underdog Sami Zayn and that he was dealing with the WrestleMania main eventer Sami Zayn, which he would say Jimmy knows all about because we know WrestleMania 39, Sami and Kevin defeated Jimmy and Jay for those tag titles, which would lead to Roman actually defeating Cody the next night. But the storyline building there is really nice, and then it gets announced that Solo will face Sami next week. Jeez, they will face next week for that U.S. title. So I love that that's going to happen. I mean, I absolutely love Sami Zayn, and I love that we're going to have that match. So I think it's going to be awesome, and I love how we're kind of playing out this rivalry right here with the bloodline and all that. Okay, next up. And sorry I keep interrupting you with the chats, by the way. Hey, I'd rather have people in the chat than none, so I don't really care. Okay, next up, we have Piper Niven in the ring, and then we get Charlotte's entrance. We see Charlotte Flair lose to Piper Niven. I think it was probably the worst decision, but once again this week, we see Chelsea Green back, like on the outside, having great. Even though, like, it's crazy because Chelsea Green cannot even be in the match, and she will still be one of the most entertaining parts of that part of the show. Like, it's insane how that happens. Chelsea Green is such a character, and she's somebody that you're always going to want to see on TV, and she's going to always intrigue you to watch. So I love that. But in the end, we saw a decent match between Charlotte and Piper. Charlotte actually pulled out a couple of good moves. She pulled out a moonsault, and not to the outside, but just onto Piper. But then in the end, we saw Piper pick up the victory. But man, we saw no Alexa, which I thought was pretty weird. But Wonder where she was. I wonder, well, obviously, with the traveling, going to Dublin, I don't know if there was any travel issues there. No news has really came out about it, so I don't know if there is or isn't. But all I know is we did not see Alexa Bliss during this segment. In the back, Kiana James was telling Julia that she had several negotiations waiting for her to sign off on. So that tells me that just maybe we'll be able to see somebody join that faction. Will Kiana and will Julia have a third person and this actually become a faction? Because right now, yes, it's all great with Kiana being the talking piece, being the mouthpiece for Julia, because we know that language barrier. This is exactly what she needs. But at this point, what else are you going to do? Are you going to throw another person in there, or do you not? Do you make it a real faction? Who would it be, though? That's what I'm saying. Who would it be? I mean, honestly, I thought for a minute there that it was going to be Michin. Maybe she would put her differences aside, but now I'm kind of thinking Zelina Vega? Do we see Zelina join this? I don't know. I don't think it would fit in. I don't think anything right now would fit in. But now that I'm thinking about it, once Asuka and Io kind of settle their things, do we see Kairi Sane come and join this? That's a shot in the dark, definitely. But I think it's a something that could happen. Just a shot in the dark. So I could see that. That's probably the only thing I could see. But then we would see Michin interrupt them with her kendo stick, and it would obviously get announced that we will have them to go against each other next week. So that's pretty good. And then we get to the Logan Paul and John Cena segment. Cena makes his way to the ring with a huge crowd pop with the Irish colors. But then we get Mark Nash announcing Cena. I mean, then he gets interrupted by Logan Paul. That obviously being a weekly occurrence from now on until Paris. But I feel like this was kind of a useless thing for Cena to waste an appearance on. But in this promo, we did see Cena acknowledge the fact that the fans don't want him to go with Logan Paul and do pointless storylines. He wants us to, or he knows that we want him to focus on the Jacob Fatu's, the AJ Styles. I believe he said Randy Orton in there as well. But he knows. But then Logan Paul roasts them for the entire promo until eventually Cena speaks up. Talks about how he thinks that Logan Paul is using WWE for brand deals. He walks over to the Prime station, kicks it over, and talks about how he put the Prime logo on the ring mat, which, by the way, I noticed this week we had no sponsors on the ring mat. I don't know if that wasn't there last week, but I did notice this week it was just the WWE logo and the blue mat. I think that they would have someone go with Julia once she loses the U.S. title. Julia, and give her a partner for the women's tag titles. I could see that, honestly, but I still don't know if we're going to see Kiana James be an in-ring action or not, just because that division is and always has been lacking. Yeah, and I don't think Julia or another partner could pick it up. One tag team isn't going to pick it up, so I wonder how that's going to go, but I just don't think it would happen. But Cena talks about how he thinks that Paul's using WWE as an advantage to sell his products, to do all this, and really just trying to take advantage of WWE. Logan Paul throws his gum into the crowd. It's a whole thing, but it ends up ending out. By the way, I do want to mention everybody he mentioned in this promo whenever he was talking about the people that he could face in his final run. He mentioned Dominic Mysterio, AJ Styles, Seth Rollins, the Usos, and Jacob Fatu. And he said to name a few. So, obviously, it probably does not matter, but and I can confirm that they were ring sponsors last week. I was there live, and it was the King of the Hill logo in the middle. Okay, so whether that's travel stuff, they just probably couldn't carry it on. I don't know, but you never know. But he mentions Dominic, AJ, Seth, the Usos, and Jacob Fatu. That's a lot. That's a lot to dig in. That's a lot to think about. So I don't know. Could we see any of them? Honestly, soon as this retirement tour kicked off, I instantly thought about Jacob Fatu. I think that was one of the safest things we could have done. It would have been a masterpiece of a match. But now at the spot of Jacob's career, he's branching off from the bloodline. He has to keep doing that. So I don't know if we will have time, especially with what 10 dates left. I don't know if we can be able to fit in Jacob. But obviously, we are inching closer and closer to that final match, which I'm guessing to be Brock Lesnar and John Cena. But why would you do it at WrestlePalooza? I don't know. But it is what it is. I think that those names right there that he just listed is definitely names that I would love to see. But then Logan would go for the knockout punch, but then Cena would reverse it, hit him with the AA, and that would be the end of that segment. So, yes, I loved this segment. I think that it really put on a lot. But at the same time, it's like, what appearances are worth it? What appearances are really are really great, and which ones are useful? Because at this stage of Cena's career, we have, like I said, 9 to 10 dates left. So, how many of these dates are actually useful and how many of them are useless? That's what I think I'm going to be looking at from now on. But yeah, that always a great promo whenever Logan and Cena are in the same ring. We see Tiffany confront Jade Cargill in the back, saying that they need to be on the same page. But then after this match is over, they need to focus on going against each other. And Jade said that she's going to focus on winning that title. So obviously, they're not really on the same page. Neither is Becky and Nia, but they have to be to win their match. So there that is. We see next up Logan Paul fuming backstage whenever he runs into Drew McIntyre, and Drew says that he is scared, that it looks like that Logan is scared of Cena. So now we're kind of seeing Drew not switch up on Logan, but telling him the truth as a good friend. So that's definitely weird. But then we would see the Street Profits defeat the MFTs, which I think is great, because I believe a couple of weeks ago we did see the Street Profits lose to the MFTs, but this week we finally see the Street Profits get back what they need, the momentum to keep going and to keep being a great tag team. So I think that, yes, they retain the momentum, but MFTs didn't even lose momentum just due to the fact that JC and Tonga was confused and distracted due to the fact that Jimmy and Sammy was fighting Solo and Talo on the outside. So I think that it's a great way to let them lose. Honestly, I think that right now the WWE is doing great things with the Bloodline storyline. It just needs to get more people engaged. Solo's doing a great job at keeping us engaged, but it takes more than one person. So I'm excited to see how or what else we can do here. But then we see Aleister Black come out. We figure out that Ron Killings pops up on the Tron. He says that he was going to land and he was going to actually go against Aleister Black, but he landed in Dublin, Georgia instead of Dublin, Ireland. So then we would see him say that he has a little friend that would face Aleister instead, which would be Damian Priest, the guy that put Aleister on the shelf a couple of weeks ago. And then we would end up seeing a couple officials come out there before the match could really even get started, because we would see Priest wanting to hit the Razor's Edge to Aleister Black through the announcer's table, but several officials broke it up before it could happen. And then Priest and Black kept breaking free and fighting each other just like normal. And then we would see next up, the announcers mention a update on Cody Rhodes' injury after 2 weeks ago during that tag match in the main event of SmackDown. McIntyre comes out and says that what he did, okay, hold on, retract. The announcers mentioned that there still wasn't a medical update on Cody Rhodes. Then they started to show what McIntyre did to him last week, and it got cut off, though, because Drew McIntyre appeared at ringside. He asked if there had been medical update on Cody Rhodes yet, but there hadn't. The fans sang in their typical European style for McIntyre. He went into the ring and called Cody a little baby. I mean, we know what word would replace that. But then we would hear the crowd start chanting, "I hear voices," in my head. And then here we go. McIntyre is talking, just going and throwing his mind away until eventually Randy Orton pops up behind him. And man, I don't know how I feel about it. This tells me Cody's not going to be in Paris. This tells me we're going to get Randy and Drew. So how do I feel about that? I don't know. I wanted to see Cody and Drew. I did. I think it was a match I've been waiting for a while. But you got to think about it. Cody's filming Street Fighter. Roman's filming Street Fighter. So, man, what do you do now? What do you resolve to? What do you turn to whenever you really need somebody to go against Drew? You pick up Randy, and he's the OG that can put on a great match with anybody. So I think it's a great option. I think it's a great decision, but still kind of bummed out it wasn't Cody. But I guess that's just me. I guess it's just me. But then we see the announcers run down next week's card, which would be Solo and Sammy for the U.S. Championship, the Street Profits versus Melo Don't Miz in a number one contenders match, which it looks like that this was kind of a tournament type style. We saw the Street Profits defeat the MFTs tonight, as well as Melo Don't Miz defeat MCMG. So it was kind of a number one contenders tournament type thing. But now we would see finally the finals next week, as well as Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss facing the Secret Harvest in a women's tag team championship match. So now we have saw Alexa and Charlotte both face Piper Niven. So now we're kind of doing the rundown and we're getting this tag team match. Not mad at it, but just frustrated that things keep getting all over the place on SmackDown. SmackDown's just a mediocre show right now. It's not a show I wouldn't watch, but it's not a show that I'm ecstatic and is a must watch to non-wrestling fans. But to me, it's all any show is going to be a must watch. I don't care how bad a show is; it's going to be must watch. And then the main event, we would see Tiffany Stratton and Jade Cargill defeat Becky Lynch and Nia Jax in their tag match in the main event in 7 minutes. So not a long main event at all. Not a long one at all. We saw Becky come off the top rope multiple times. We saw Tiffany go off the top rope in a deadly swanton to the outside. Looked like her neck completely hit the ground. And she started holding it right after, but it looks like she was completely fine. Again, the adrenaline from is 2020 Raw a must watch? Yes. Yes, it was. I can't lie. It was, because you had to keep up with the title changes. I mean, next week it was The Miz holding the WWE title. Then Bobby would win it back the next week. It was a must-watch. Even though it sucked sometimes, it was a must-watch with the Hurt Business getting started and how good that was. And then we would have, I don't know if this was really deep in 2020. We would have, what was there? Retribution be starting up. Man, 2020 was great times. I don't care how bad it was. Okay, I'll give you that. The Hurt Business was really good. Yes, it was. But in the main event, Tiffany looked like she almost hurt herself on that swanton. Looked like Becky and Nia didn't do an awesome job at catching her. But we ended up seeing Tiffany and Jay pick up the victory in the end. Awesome match. Not something I would complain about, obviously. Nothing's going to lead up to this. I think the three main people in this we need to focus about is Nia, Tiffany, and Jade. Becky has nothing to do with it and never will right now just because of the title she's holding on Monday Night Raw. And she's going to go back to her brand. I don't know if she's going to be here next week or not, but I don't know if Monday Night Raw's coming here as well. I would hope so, but I don't know. But yes, that would happen in the main event. And then right as we're about to close the show, John Cena was leaving the dressing room and was interrupted by Nick Aldis, in which Nick Aldis would tell him that he just talked to Brock Lesnar. Then out of nowhere, Logan Paul would show up behind Nick Aldis and punch Cena, which would leave Cena fully laid out on the concrete outside of the arena. And then Aldis yelled at Logan Paul. Paul ran away, and Aldis tended to Cena while he was on the floor. So pretty much a lot to unpack there. Aldis tells Cena that he talked to Brock. First time we've heard Brock's name since SummerSlam, and something new at least. And I think that that's a big step, but at the same time, it's like we're going to have to stretch it out now. We're going to have to stretch out when we get appearances from Brock and Cena both, even though Brock isn't on a certain plan. Brock is obviously only coming back for Cena. He doesn't want to do it, and he was just asked to do it. So I think that he's coming back for Cena. He's wanting to get Cena one last time. Why? I don't know. I mean, if you really think about it, there's no reason he would be coming back to get Cena because they didn't end on any terms. But we see Brock, maybe, but I mean, we have to stretch it out because they're going to be facing each other on September 20th, and that's next month. And yes, I know this month is low-key closing in, but it's to the point now where you kind of got to think about it, you know? September 20th is the next time that the last time we're going to be seeing Cena versus Brock. That's a while from now, folks. But either way, tonight was an awesome episode of Friday Night SmackDown. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I know that the quality, I'm sorry, but the quality is not that good. And I know it myself, but it's way easier for me to do. And if I use my phone, it's not as easy, and it takes a long time. But here, honestly, I want this right here to be a type of thing where you can plug in your earbuds, your headphones, whatever, and just listen, to be honest. I mean, you can watch, you can do whatever, but I take a lot of inspiration from Busted Open Radio. I love what they're doing over there, and I know it's probably going to be laggy. It is what it is, to be honest. My most pride and joy is on my Instagram. And over here, it's just something where I can get on here and I can talk about pro wrestling and be able to do it as long as I want. So I enjoy this channel a lot. And now we've spread it to 1,000 followers, which makes me feel like that I should be trying to put in better quality and buy a camera, which I'm trying. I'm trying to get a PC and a camera so that I can put up great content. But I'm trying my best here. I'm really trying. So it would really, it would really mean a lot if y'all would like and subscribe on this video right here. But hope y'all enjoyed. And without further ado, hope y'all enjoyed SmackDown as well. And I'll see y'all boys in the next one. Deuces, deuces.